Three really interesting, contrasting examples there, but also really learning about the importance of engaging the right people early on and having that upfront commitment to actually deliver these things from the outset, something which we're missing without that New Towns programme. I've got lots of questions, but I want to open it up first of all, up to you guys. So we've got about 5 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? Hello, yes.
It's a really unformed question. What if you're not interested in increasing the value of land?
What if you're not interested in increasing the value of land? Yeah. Well, it happens anyway, whether or not you want to do it. But I will pass that on to our panellists. Starting at this end.
I'm not particularly interested in increasing the value of land. I mean, it happens. I'm interested in really properly finding a way through the complexity of how some of these kinds of developments have been created and had, in effect, by the way they've been created, had their hands tied behind their back and the way of managing out of that. So if that ends up being an argument that can be useful to people to do more of this kind of work, then it's there. I mean, it's a slightly unformed answer, I'm afraid.
I think the viability, we haven't talked about viability and developers' arguments against cultural development because of viability. And I think that was one of the things I would have liked to explore more. But currently the argument at the moment for lack of cultural provisioning and Section 106 agreements at Cranbrook is viability. And every year that gets worse because the construction interest rates are played into that. So it's a vicious circle against time. So I think viability is something which should be challenged more than it is.
Absolutely, it's a complete scandal. Some of those arguments.
Scandal.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alastair, Otterpool Park. The council has bought a lot of the land, hasn't it? And therefore there is an opportunity for them to capture that land value increase, which is going to result from the development and reinvest it in some of the programmes. Do you think there's a obvious way to do that through some of the things that you're proposing?
What do you mean? Are the things we're proposing going to be part of what increases the value?
I mean, what do you think are the... do you have an indication... Do you feel that the council is likely to make the most of those opportunities from your conversations with them?
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but the council, I think, has, at this point, they will set up there's two major landowners, them and the racecourse owner, and Homes England have bought a bit of land now to come in on it. But it's being dominated by the council entirely. I mean, they're pushing the agenda much more than the arena racing is. And their agenda is, without doubt, part of it is about the decreasing central government funding to local authorities, that this is a way that they can replace funds to do what they're obliged to do as a council. Or they're actually, maybe they're not going to be obliged to do as councils anymore, but they would like to do as councils. Is this going to give them some income to do it, which includes culture? So in a sense, I can imagine our activities, if we get it right, adds value. Mostly, though, it's to the council, who then will invest it back in our community, because I'm an idealist, I think.
And
that's
Kevin,
what's happening.
Thank you. Kevin, you have said that, pointed to the fact that NHS England have funded a lot of the things that you've been talking about that have helped with the development of Ebbsfleet. How have you found being an urban development corporation and the constraints of that compared to the finances that the New Town Development Corporations had? Do you think that has restricted your ability to do what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think it's your point, because actually for us, increasing land value is a threat rather than a positive, because if the landowners can capitalise on the land as quick as possible, then they're in and out. So for us, actually having patient investors who are there for the long term, or where we want to get to, we actually want to take control of the land, just because Osborne's wet dream, as Marc explained it earlier, was about the private sector doing everything. I think we realised that wasn't the right thing to do, because we've no way of capturing the value. So we need to get some control of the land to capture the value so it can stay in the place for the long term. And we want to invest that into a long-term stewardship company. Our business plan is identifying probably needing to leave 50 to 60 million pounds of assets to have a stewardship company that could really run a town in perpetuity, that has a really rich cultural fabric and good community infrastructure. So that's our lesson,
Yeah.
but that's the good thing about us having that lesson,
Yeah.
because hopefully the next development corporation or the next large-scale development, they're not going to be thinking in the same way. You need to think about these things up front. Our planning permissions were granted 15 years ago, so we can't get anything through our Section 106s or SILs. So let's hope the next generation don't make the same mistake. So it's a really good point. You really need to understand land value and land value capture, and you can't have both. You can't have a land owner capitalising and people benefiting at the same time.
That's a much better answer than mine, by the way. Much less flippant. And sorry for introducing that horrible image about Osborne into the room.
And I also think that is a really, really good place to end, because we do have to finish at 5 past. There's some really, really interesting things there. And we've talked about a lot about this in our publications and in various conversations, so it'd be really good to continue that. And we are going to be sharing the slides from today's presentation, I hear from Claire. But please say thanks to our speakers for this afternoon.